Hey there, Mr. Reddit here. Welcome back to another episode of r/Entitled Parent Stories. Our first story we'll be reading today, entitled Mom Yells at Me Because I Won't Change the Price of a Toy. After that, Am I the jerk for preventing my daughter from getting a new phone? And after that, Fiancé left me due to my health condition. I left her destitute. Now for every thumbs up this video gets, one Karen doesn't get a new phone. But I need it! So please smash that like button. And if you're new, subscribe and turn on notifications for new stories from Reddit every single day. Entitled Mom Yells at Me Because I Won't Change the Price of a Toy. So this happened a while ago, but it still makes me fume every time I think about it. So I'm a supervisor at a supermarket. One day a cashier calls for me to come and help with something. I get over there and it's a mom and her kid. The mom claims the toy she has in her hands was only $9. Now, we're supposed to be strict about this kind of stuff because most of the time, an item has just been moved to the wrong place. Just so we're clear, we can't honor a price every time something is in the wrong place. It's a huge store, and we would be run out of business doing that. Anyway, back to the story. I go with the customer to the toy section so she can show me where she found it. I see that the toy was clearly in the wrong spot, and all three other toys like this are an aisle away, and they're ringing up $20. I tell the customer this, and then a crap storm occurs. We've got me, we've got Entitled Mom, and we've got her kid. Entitled Mom. Okay, but I found it here, and you guys say you honor the prices. Me. Not if the item has been moved to another place. If all the other toys like this were in the spot, there might be an exception. But if you read the label here, it says something different than the toy you're talking about. That's not my problem. I found it here. My son really wants it, and you are going to deny it to him? I used to work here. I know how things work, and you have to give it to me for that price. Me. Ma'am, I'm sorry, but there is too much of a difference for me to change the price of an item that was in the wrong spot. Her kid. At this point, he's not even caring about the toy. He's playing with a phone and seems perfectly content. Entitled Mom. Are you kidding me? You're going to do that to my kid? He's so upset over this. He's throwing a fit. You tell him that you're the reason why he can't have a toy he wants so bad. Tell him. Her kid begins to get upset because she is baiting him. Me, trying to calm her down. Ma'am, Entitled Mom talking to her son. I'm sorry you can't have it. This woman over here won't let you have it. At this point, she's being so loud that my nearby coworkers have come over to see if everything is okay. I tell the customer I will get her a manager because I'm starting to get so angry that I'm shaking. The manager meets her up front where she continues to yell at him in front of all the cashiers and customers checking out. She's going on about how we are cheating her and that I handled the situation very poorly. Then she asks to speak to the store manager. When she is told that the store manager is unavailable, she calls our corporate number. Oh, and to make things worse, management let her have the toy. She was definitely one of the worst customers I've had to endure. Now, every time I see her, I shudder to think of having to help her again. By the way, it wasn't so bad after because all the cashiers were cracking up about the craziness of this lady, in turn making all the anger go away. And this mother met with the store manager, but everyone else vouched for me about how crazy this lady was, so I didn't get in any trouble. Do you think they should have lowered the price or kept it full price? Please let us know. That Karen needs to learn how to switch the price tags. Tell her to give me a call. I'll be glad to teach her. Am I the jerk for preventing my daughter from getting a new phone? Forgive me if I'm heated in this post, but this situation makes me extremely angry. A few months ago, my daughter smashed her iPhone for a social media post. In the post, she said, "It's okay, my parents will buy me a new one." The thing is, I definitely would have bought her a new one that same day and would have never known if it wasn't for the fact that her brother tipped me off and showed me the post. Her father and I were obviously extremely angry. We both came from rough childhoods and worked hard to build a good life for our kids. So to see her take advantage of that was extremely upsetting in a way I can't even describe. Her father and I are divorced, but we sat down and agreed that 1. We are cutting off her allowance, and her purchases now have to come through us. 2. We will never buy her a new phone, but we might consider a flip phone when she goes to college. 3. We will monitor her social media to make sure she's not participating in damaging content. 4. If she gets a job and wants a new phone, she first has to pay us back for the phone she destroyed. 5. We won't buy her a car when she turns 16. As I said, a few months have passed and I still feel the same way, but her dad has softened and he thinks her attitude has changed. He says that we might be too harsh over a teenager's mistake, and we should at least give her an allowance for chores and change "we're never buying you a phone ever" to "going a year without a phone." Personally, I don't care if all kids have one. She has an iPad with social media and a MacBook. She can still message her friends, but I refuse to get her another phone. If she wants one, she can get a part-time job and work for it so she can see how much work goes into getting a phone. But I don't see value in giving more money to a kid who doesn't know the value of money. I'd rather my daughter be unhappy for a few years over a phone than raise another spoiled and out-of-touch jerk for the world. Her dad respects my opinion and agreed he won't give her a phone or allowance. But now my daughter is angry at me and calling me a narcissist and controlling. However, my actions are a direct result of her misbehavior, and I'm not preventing her from getting a phone. She is free to work and buy one at any point. However, I think I might be the jerk because my daughter will be punished for years over one mistake. Am I the jerk here? Well, what would you do in this situation? Would you buy your kid a new phone or let them get a job and buy one themselves? Please let us know. Oh, give the kid a break. I did things like that all the time when I was a teenager, and look how I turned out. Fiancé left me due to my health condition. I left her destitute. We dated for 4 years and had what I thought was a great relationship. We were both well-established professionals who both owned homes in the same neighborhood and both with daughters in the home. Her daughter was 11 and mine was 16 when we met. We had actually planned to get married, build a house, and raise the two together. We planned the house build because she had recently been diagnosed with a neurological disease that would eventually put her in a wheelchair and need something ADA friendly. During the planning stages, I began doing landscape and construction projects on her home to increase the resale value. All in, I invested roughly $30,000 into the home, running everything through my side construction business for tax, permitting, and resale purposes. We had a contract that payment would be made upon the sale of the home. I produced invoices for each and every project, but never pushed for payment because of the prior agreement. Fast forward 6 months, we're looking at property to develop and finalizing drawings on the home when I began feeling ill. I couldn't eat, constantly vomiting and passing blood. I began noticing that my abdomen looked swollen, which was odd because we were both very clean eaters and were in the gym every day. So I went to the doctor and began having tests done. During this time, she began having small cognitive issues, and the stress of her current position was exacerbating her condition. So she took a $20,000 per annum cut in pay along with a lesser position inside the company. After a month or so of different tests and a biopsy, it came back that I had a golf ball-sized tumor in my stomach and would need to begin chemotherapy. So I began chemo and radiation treatments, which made me, expectedly so, extremely ill. She was spending time helping around my place on the weekends and staying over more, to the point that they were both at my home more than theirs. At this point, I suggested that we go ahead and put one of our houses on the market and move in together until the new house was built. I have great supplemental insurance as well as a long-term illness plan, so using that coupled with the sale of one of our houses would push us through comfortably and help ease the financial stress on her. Shortly after this discussion, she became extremely distant. Her daughter wasn't coming down and hanging out with mine anymore. She had excuses for not getting together. She quit driving me to treatments and stopped staying over. She then dropped a bomb, a sentence that will forever be burned into my psyche. I love you, but I can't see myself taking care of someone this sick in the long term, and I don't think we should see each other any longer. In a text. It broke me, I won't lie. This was the first woman I had ever opened up to and planned a life with since my wife died when my kids were 1 and 3. However, I tried to be mature about it. I forced myself to understand her position and to accept what I could not change. I calmly, the next day, gathered all of her things, packed them neatly, loaded them into my truck, and took them to her house to leave on the back porch while she was at work, in order to avoid any awkward exchanges. Walking around the back and under the porch cover, I sat down in a box and saw her in the back living room, on the couch, hooking up with a guy that she had introduced me to as a lifelong friend. I had dinner and drinks with this man and his girlfriend. We had gone on vacation with them as well. I never spoke on the incident with her and simply sent her a text later explaining that I would leave her things on my side porch to pick up at her convenience. I discovered 8 or 9 months later from his now ex-girlfriend that they had broken up due to him confessing that he had been hooking up with my significant other dating back to about the time we were finishing drawings on the new home. Now I'm mad. Revenge time. At this point, I had finished chemo and radiation for the time being and was feeling healthier. I was going through some much neglected paperwork when I ran across the file that contained $32,000 in unpaid, long overdue invoices, which were promptly sent to my attorney to begin lien proceedings on the home. It turns out that I couldn't have done this a moment too soon because she was set to put her house on the market. Coupled with interest over the course of what was then 19 months overdue, the invoices were hefty. That, along with the agreement of settling them when the house was sold and attorney fees, left her with roughly $10,000 after the sale of the home and settling her current mortgage. She promptly had to back out of the purchase of another home and moved in with her oldest daughter, sister-in-law, and 2 grandkids. She also had to leave her home and begin receiving disability. I ran into her a little over a year ago, and she looked as if she had aged 20 years and was in the wheelchair we had talked about. We chatted cordially, but briefly, and I excused myself and went on with my day. A few days later, her younger daughter called me and spoke of my running into her mom and could we hang out sometime. I gave her a vague answer, thanked her for calling, and again went on with my day. The ex then called me a week or so later and began apologizing for leaving me as she did. Again, cordial but short. I thanked her for calling and hung up. She began texting, and this went on for several weeks until she asked if I could ever see us rekindling what we had, to which I replied, "I can't see myself taking care of someone so sick in the long term. Remember the box on your back porch? Did you think that lifelong friend brought that over to you from my house? Good luck to you. Goodbye." I sometimes feel guilt over this, but not much and not often. Am I the jerk for telling my boyfriend to get a job or get out? I, 27, have been with my boyfriend, who's also 27, for 8 years, and we've been living together for 6. For college graduation, my dad gifted me a house, paid off, as he is very well off. Since graduation, I've started my career and have become very successful and enjoy my work. My boyfriend has not. He did not complete college and has jumped between low-paying jobs for the last 6 to 7 years. This never bothered me. I make enough money to support us both. I pay our utilities and other fees with some help from him. Late last year, my boyfriend lost his job and was still looking for a new one when the lockdown hit. He now claims it is nearly impossible to get a job, which I understand, but have also had other friends in the same town manage to get jobs since the lockdown. All of this would be okay, except my dad lives in a city nearby and will often stop by, with warning. When he does, I do not mind him eating anything he wants out of the refrigerator or using my appliances. I figured he gave me a place to live payment-free, so it's only fair. I also do not care if my boyfriend eats whatever he wants either. Last week, my dad ate food that my boyfriend had purchased. This has happened in the past, but from my perspective, we live rent-free, so it shouldn't be a big deal. It is never special food, normally like regular chicken or something you can get at the market. My boyfriend is normally annoyed, but this time he went ballistic and took my dad's laptop charger out of his bag to get even. By the time my dad figured out his charger was missing, his computer was almost dead and he had an important virtual meeting. Thankfully, he had a spare, but I was livid. I told my boyfriend that he lives rent-free and that if he was going to act that insane about some food when he regularly eats what I buy and turn into a child, then I expected him to get a job and pay rent, or else get out. He chose to get out, but accused me of being a jerk and throwing him out on the street. However, he has a brother and a sister that live nearby, as well as his mother who regularly asks him to come stay with her, which he normally doesn't. So Reddit, am I the jerk? Well, what would you have done? Would you have kicked him out too, or let him stick around? Please let us know. It depends on the food. Are we talking Hot Pockets or Chipotle? Yes. Give us more money or we'll evict you. Go ahead. A few years ago, my best friend and I rented a tiny 2-bedroom flat together. This place was kind of terrible. My friend's room had a hole cut into the wall, so the last foot of the bed would fit. This became a mantelpiece in the next room. The kitchen was the size of a kid's playhouse kitchen, and the upstairs neighbors spent all hours of the day and night screaming at each other. But we were mostly happy because we were living with 6 other people. We paid £75 a week each plus bills for this place, which was pretty standard for a 2-bed flat in our area. Then, 6 months into our 1-year contract, the landlord sold the terraced house our flat was a part of to a middle-aged married couple who were first-time landlords. They were the kind of people who thought that they were smarter than everybody else, and I got the impression that they thought property management was going to be the easiest thing ever. We had no problem throughout the sale process. We were assured nothing would change. We didn't interact much with the landlord before anyway. The 2 weeks after the sale, we got an email from the couple saying that we owed them £20 each more a week. Basically, in our contract, it stated our rent was £75 each a week, about 10 times. But there was one typo where it said our rent was £95 each, so they said that they could legally charge us £95. We laughed at this, but when it became clear they were serious, we reached out to the letting agent and got them to put in writing that it was a typo. Our rent was always £75, and they even gave us the original advert for the flat with the correct rent on it. We thought this would be the end of it. We were wrong. The couple insisted on coming to our flat for an in-person meeting. When they got there, they said that they asked the old landlord about it, and he was shocked that we had not been paying enough for 6 months now, and the rent was always £95. I didn't buy this because they had nothing in writing, but I made the argument that, of course, he would say that because he wouldn't want to seem like he sold under false pretenses. And if we had been underpaying by a total of like £160 a month, why had he never spoken to us about it? They said that he was a busy guy with too many properties. Then the husband spent ages condescendingly explaining mortgages to us. Then they declared that if we did not start paying them the higher rent, they would evict us, and we had 24 hours to pay or 30 days to get out, and they left. Honestly, I think they saw 2 22-year-old girls and thought they could scare us into paying more money. What they didn't know is that my friend and I are very pleasant until you upset us, and we become vindictive jerks. We decided that night that if they wanted to evict us, we were going to make them do it properly. And if they were so pedantic about contracts and rules, we were going to stop letting anything slide. The couple woke up the next morning with an email from our lawyer, my flatmate's brother, a bored lawyer with time on his hands, requesting a formal eviction notice in writing and laying out a record of last night's conversation. Thing was, they didn't actually have legal grounds to evict us because even if we went to court and a judge favored their interpretation of the contract, we were advised this was unlikely. We still didn't owe them more than a month's rent, which would have been their only legal way of evicting us because we were otherwise great tenants. By 9:15 a.m., they were ringing us, but we ignored them and emailed that our lawyer had advised us to only communicate in writing. We then sent an email informing them that the fancy new front door they had just installed could not be unlocked from the inside without a key, which violated fire safety laws, and unfortunately, if this wasn't rectified ASAP, we would have to report it. We then sent texts that showed them repeatedly entering our flat with less than 24 hours notice. And did they know that this was illegal? Maybe we should talk to the other tenants because if they're doing this to everyone, then this could be quite a problem. After about 3 days of this, we received a very nice email saying they don't agree our rent was supposed to be $75 each a week, but they would graciously allow us to finish out our contract at this rate. By this point, we had found a flat triple the size for £80 each a week and wanted out of that hamster cage, so we offered to move if they signed mutual surrender forms. They eagerly agreed. The best part was that they stubbornly tried to rent that flat out at a higher rate, despite us telling them it was a terrible idea, and the flat was empty for over a year. And because they had agreed to end our contract early, they got stuck paying the council tax. Not me. A thank you to the man who defended me at Walmart. I'll start out by explaining briefly that we've just moved to the area we're living in. I'm extremely new to the area, and it makes me a little more nervous than normal. I am legally deaf. That doesn't mean I can't hear anything at all, but you definitely gotta speak slowly and very loud, especially with what's going on in these masks. I can lip read really well, but with the masks, I'm at a loss, unfortunately. I was wondering the local Walmart. I'm dressed in a bright yellow shirt and a pair of yoga pants, and I'm wearing my DOT-approved motorcycle helmet with the visor down instead of a mask. Masks are mandatory, but they never seem to mind letting me in as long as I keep my visor down while I shop. That makes me even more deaf than usual. My helmet is bright white, not hard to tell I don't work there. There is no mistaking that I don't work at Walmart. I have my hearing aids in, but they tend to have a wide V effect with 3 separate mics, and I don't hear people behind me very well, if at all. It just mutes background noise, so I can focus on what's in front of me. Even with the hearing aids, I have serious difficulty hearing people with my helmet on. I clearly have a few items in my hands, sandwich meats and bread. I'm following the arrows they put down and am squatting down, looking for a can of Campbell's mushroom soup. Suddenly, there's a very aggressive, repeated smack against my shoulder. I actually screamed because I hadn't seen her come up behind me and was not expecting anyone right now to be close enough to actually touch me. She scared the absolute heck out of me. I twisted and landed hard, squishing my bread. I can suddenly see this woman, and she's wearing her mask, gesturing wildly. I can hear the murmur of her voice, but with the visor down and my helmet on, I can't understand her properly. My hearing aids are pressed against the sides of the padding of my helmet and are moderately useless with the visor down. She doesn't react that I've fallen, just gestures wildly, and her voice is rising. I finally make out what I think is, "Here is the Mac fuel." It's weird the way your brain fills in blanks when you can't hear someone or read their lips. I just shake my head and say, "I don't know." I know my response is muffled by my helmet because she keeps at it. While on the ground, I sign wildly, "I don't know, I don't know," all the while shrugging my shoulders and shaking my head hard. Unfortunately to her, maybe it looks like I'm saluting her, still on the ground. She says in an extremely loud voice, "If I can hear you and I'm wearing my helmet with the visor down, you're speaking extremely loudly." "Where is the cat food?" There is a man behind her wearing a mask who was distancing until she raised her voice. I see him approach quickly. He doesn't work there either, and I can hear him literally yell at her. Again, if I can hear you, you are loud. "Hey lady, don't touch her. What's wrong with you?" This attracts the attention of nearby people, and thankfully 2 people who actually work there. I see the blue shirts coming, and I just skirt back from the lady as she turns away from me and starts bickering with the man. I can't hear most of it, but I can definitely see it escalating. I stand up, step back further, and brush myself off. I pick up my sandwich meats, and the bread is a lost cause. One employee clearly tries to de-escalate the situation, and she is just shrill and gesturing madly. I can no longer hear the man. He's not raising his voice anymore. One of the staff, standing beside me now. I turn my face to her, and I think she's asking me if I'm okay. I shrug and throw off a few signs. "I'm deaf, sorry, don't know her." And I point aggressively at the lady who scared me. The man is explaining everything that happened to the other staff member. The second employee seems to understand that I'm deaf and just nods. She motions for me to step back further from the argument, and I do, and she puts herself between myself and the small knot of people. There's a brief heated discussion, the employee shaking his head, some of which I can hear, and some of which I can't, as the man speaks to the other staff. I can hear her briefly again, something about, "Ever again." The lady is then actually escorted from the store, her cart left behind by one staff member. I was super surprised by that. When all is said and done, it seems he saw the whole thing. Things quiet down quickly. The customer who intervened points at me and flashes the "OK" symbol most people know. Pointer finger to thumb, 3 fingers out. I smiled and nodded. I signed and loudly said, "Thank you," before the Walmart employee led me back to the area to get new bread. I gave the man the peace sign before I left and signed "Thank you" again before being led away. Am I the jerk for telling my wife I don't care if it's her turn? We're not naming our son Tuesday? My wife and I are both 28 and have been living together since we were 14. We got married at 21 and had our daughter at 25. Last year, we were going through some marriage difficulties and decided a break would be in both of our best interests. We both just need a little time apart after being together for so long. So we split, and in this time, my wife felt pretty awful about herself. I initiated the break and ended up hooking up with one of her longtime male friends, and she got pregnant. At 6 months pregnant, we reconnected again and got back together. Her friend had absolutely no interest in the baby and told us he would not play a role in the baby's life whatsoever. We agreed and planned to raise him together. Anyway, that's the backstory. It's been 2 months since then, and we've really been late on the names. I know. The deal was I named our daughter Charlotte. My wife didn't actually like the name, but she agreed so long as she got to name the next kid, and she can name our next. She came up to me yesterday and told me she was reading a book and found the perfect name. I asked her what, and she said Tuesday. When she first said it, I admittedly laughed out loud, and I asked her if she was serious. She said yes, she was, and it's her decision. I followed her around the house and told her absolutely no way were we naming our son Tuesday. He'd get made so much fun of. My wife said no, he wouldn't. Lots of kids have unique names and aren't bullied. I told her that yes, unique names, not days of the week. She wasn't hearing it and pointed out she hated the name Charlotte and agreed on the basis she would get to name the next kid. I argued that's a totally different thing. Charlotte is a normal name. Our daughter won't get laughed at because of it. My wife got frustrated, and after arguing on and off for the rest of the day, she finally told me he wasn't even my kid. I just walked off, and although she came right back and apologized and said that she didn't mean it, I was fuming. I'm not talking to her right now, but I'm holding steadfast we won't name him Tuesday. I don't think I'm the jerk at all, but some ammunition would be helpful when I explain to my wife exactly why it's such a ridiculous name. So tell me, am I the jerk? Well, what do you think? Is Tuesday a good name for a baby or not? Please let us know. It's better than Monday, I'll tell you that much. God, I hate Mondays. The guy wanted that go-kart. This happened about 3 years ago. I worked at an underground go-karting area. I worked as a controller, so I sold tickets and controlled the races, meaning I stopped and started the races. It was one of the busiest Saturday nights. I'm rushing around with tickets and controlling races. My marshals are running around and trying to make sure the races run smoothly. This one family comes in and bought 2 tickets, the father and son wanting to race each other. When it came to their turn, the father says he wanted that card and pointed at the one in the island. The card in the island is black with some nice fire patterns on it. It really did look awesome, but here's the catch. It was just a prop with no engine. I told the father this, but he insisted on that card. I thought he was maybe a little hard of hearing, or it was too noisy for him, so I repeated myself. He called me a liar and called the marshal a liar. We went back and forth with this for about 10 minutes. The marshal pulled me aside and whispered into my ears, and the more he spoke, the more I smiled. We went back to the father and agreed on giving him the card. We asked if he wanted his wife to video record the race, and he agreed readily. I told them the basic rules and also told them that I will only stop the race if there is a real emergency. Just before the race started, my boss walked into the control room and I explained everything to him. He smiled and took a chair out for himself to watch the show. The lights turn green, the wife starts recording, the sun is off, and the father was still where he is. He went off at us, yelling and telling us that we've cost him the race, etc., etc. We get him into another cart, but by the time his son has done 2 laps. After the race, the father demanded that he speaks to my manager, and to his luck, my boss is standing next to me. My boss's words, "You got what you asked for, so I suggest you leave or we call security." The father leaves, and his wife had tears in her eyes from laughter. The son apparently won $100. Remember, this happened in front of 200 plus customers. Edit. Wow, this story really blew up. A lot of you seem to think this is fake. I can assure you that this is a true story. The go-karts are built into an underground parking area, and on a very, very busy night, it can become very deafening. Am I the jerk for kicking out my pregnant sister because of her irresponsible boyfriend? I, 27 female, am a high school English teacher, and I live with my husband who works an office job. We live comfortably in a newer middle-class suburban area. 4 months ago, my sister, who's 18, called me asking to move in with me for a while. She told me she had gotten pregnant and my parents didn't want her living under their roof anymore. I was disappointed at her for getting knocked up in the middle of what's going on, but welcomed her to my house along with her boyfriend. When they moved in, I discussed the baby situation with her. She decided she doesn't want to go to college and that she'll find a job once the baby is born. As for the boyfriend, he's supposedly looking for any job he can take. I told her that they can stay with us as long as he finds a stable job, and she agreed. 2 months passed by and he hasn't picked up a job. My husband offered to go job hunting with him, but he insisted on doing it himself. What upsets me the most was that he never picked up after himself. He left dirty socks everywhere, dirty dishes on the table, wrappers, pop cans, any trash that he could have put in the garbage but decided not to. I asked him many times to clean up his messes. He told me he'll remember to do so next time. There was never a next time, and he continued to leave crap everywhere. It got to a point where I confronted my sister about her boyfriend's laziness, and she got mad at me for complaining about it. She said I was overreacting and that he was just stressed about having to find a job with a baby on the way. Frustrated, I told her that if he was going to act this way now, no way in heck was he going to be ready to take care of a baby, and if he didn't find a job by the end of the week, I'd be kicking him out. The argument ended, and she didn't speak to me for the rest of the night. The next morning, my sister approached me and said that if I was going to kick him out, I'd have to kick her out with him. I shrugged off the threat, but when the week ended, I told the boyfriend that he had to leave my house. Suddenly, my sister came running in the room and screamed at me for kicking him out when they're at a helpless state. I told her that he had his chance to find a job and he didn't take it. He didn't argue, surprisingly, and got up and left with his stuff. Next thing I know, my sister is packing her bags. "So, are you kicking me out with him?" She kept asking me this. Finally, I told her that it was completely her choice and I'd rather her leave if she was going to stay dependent on him. She left the house, and I don't know where she's at currently. I've tried contacting her countless times, but she won't answer. I've informed my parents about her moving out, and they couldn't be too worried. I also called up my town's local homeless shelter and asked them to tell me if she pops up sometime. For now, I'm sitting in guilt for letting her leave with her useless boyfriend. I don't want her to end up homeless with a baby. What would you do in this situation? Would you kick out the choosing beggars or let them stay with you? Please let us know. Refund your overdraft fees? You got it, bud. I used to be an operations manager for a top 20 bank in the States. I've moved on, but for a while the job entailed speaking with customers who were very difficult. So I get this call center rep who escalated the call to me, and she's sobbing. This guy is beyond cruel. He has $140 in overdraft fees in 3 days rebated to him. He now has $70 more applied to the account today. This guy has been a customer a whopping 2 weeks, so no one's giving him any more money. Hence, he threatens to sue, so I get to talk to him. Now, I'm a sensible guy, and I'd like to believe a good person. Single mom, you're getting your fees back. Going through chemo, you're getting your fees back. Heck, if you're a broke college kid and you tell me that you just need the money back so you can eat, you're getting your money back. But this dude was a miserable piece of garbage and absolutely brutal in his insults. He gets on the line and doesn't even bother with any pleasantries. So right off the bat, he claims he's taking us to court. I try to explain how it happened, and he yells to me that he doesn't care. He's not listening to me and to give him his money. I explain we have already rebated 4 fees, and that's more exceptions than we normally give, and we would not rebate further fees. He cuts me off and then proceeds to call me horrible and terrible names, over $70. So I say I think we've gotten a bit off track and ask if I can hold to talk to my boss. This guy tells me to make it fast. He's getting on a plane soon. Cue malicious compliance. I pull the call record and email it to a legal and corporate secretary, asking if this can be defined as a threat against an employee and grounds for shutting down an account. I know the contact in legal and asked him to look at it right away. He says to zero out the account and he'll shut it down. So I get back on the line and say, "Sir, thank you so much for holding. After speaking with my colleagues, the bank is willing to make a final exception and rebate the fees as a final courtesy, giving you a $0.00 available balance in your account." He hangs up. I email legal and they shut down his account immediately. No checking account, no debit, and no credit card. The guy got off a plane in Chicago, expecting to put cash in his account at an ATM and seeing a direct deposit from his job, and found out he didn't even have a bank anymore. And even better, I got to read a follow-up comment from a CSR that said he called back in and this was a business flight. His company didn't give him a credit card. He submitted daily expense reports and they reimbursed him. So he was truly stranded. We've got another video you're going to love. It just popped up on the screen, so come watch it and we'll see you when you get there. And join as a channel member today and we'll give you a special shout out on our next video. And to have us make a special video for you, come visit us on Fiverr, link pinned in the comments below.